Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed staring at a giant mountain of contract law notes, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to build a memory palace together. We aren't just going to sit here and read through boring case summaries. Instead, we're visually mapping out the entire life cycle of a contract so that every single section number and case name locks permanently into your brain for your exam. Sound good? Let's get started. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with the birth of a contract. Then, we move into discharge, looking at agreement and performance, followed by frustration and breach. After that, we'll dive into remedies, covering rescission and damages, and then performance and restitution. Finally, we'll wrap it all up with a master exam revision map. Basically, we're tracking a contract from its formal creation through its legal death, all the way to the aftermath. All right, part one, the birth of a contract. Let's see how this builds, because obviously before we can legally end a contract, we have to officially create one. Like I said, before a contract dies, it's got to live. The very foundation of this formal bond is anchored in the blue section numbers you'll see popping up throughout this explainer. To start, we're looking at Section 9. Remember that, Section 9. This establishes the legal formalities. And anchoring Section 9 is our first key case, Fauzi Elias versus George Sahali & Co. So lock in your very first memory link right now. Formalities equals Section 9, supported by the Fauzi Elias case. Let's hear it one more time for good measure. Section 9, Fauzi Elias. Moving on to Part 2, discharge through agreement and performance. Now that our contract is alive and formal, it's time to talk about how it ends. Welcome to the discharge phase. Now, what's really interesting about this is that there are exactly 4 legal routes a contract can take to terminate. Just 4. Agreement, performance, frustration, and breach. We're going to tackle these one by one, but let's focus first on the 2 most peaceful, orderly methods, agreement and performance. First up, discharge by agreement. Picture 2 parties just smiling, shaking hands, and mutually agreeing to walk away. That's your mental image, the handshake. This peaceful exit is governed by 2 crucial sections, Section 63 and Section 64. Under Section 63 and Section 64, parties can mutually substitute the contract, they can rescind it, or they can alter it. You can even accept a completely different satisfaction to clear a debt, and the foundational case to remember for agreement? That's Kirpa Singh versus Bariam Singh. So handshake, Section 63 and 64, Kirpa Singh. Next is discharge by performance. Think of this as a progress bar, reaching a clean 100%, the green checkmark. Step 1 requires an offer to perform under Section 38(1) and Section 42, which actually allows for third-party performance. Step 2 requires exact timing, because time is of the essence under Section 56. And Step 3, exact delivery. And hey, here is a massive warning sign. Performance must be exact, literally. If you deliver late or incorrectly, you fail. This strict rule is perfectly illustrated in our anchor case, Remore & Co. versus Landauer. Remember Remore & Co. for exact performance. Okay, let's pause the narrative for a quick 15-second recap to really lock these into your long-term memory. Agreement is the handshake. It relies on Section 63 and Section 64, anchored by the Kirpa Singh case. Performance is the green checkmark. It relies on Section 38(1), Section 42, and Section 56, anchored by Remore & Co. Got it? Awesome. Let's keep rolling. Part 3, discharge via frustration and breach. We've covered the peaceful endings, so now we're shifting gears to look at the messy, chaotic ways a contract can die. On one side, we have discharge by frustration. Picture a tornado. This happens when an unpredictable event makes the contract absolutely impossible to perform. This principle is found in Section 57(2). Say it with me, Section 57(2). A classic example is a music hall suddenly burning down right before a concert. That brings us to our famous anchor cases, Taylor versus Caldwell and Burney versus Toronto Mines. So, Section 57(2), Taylor and Burney. On the flip side, we contrast this with discharge by breach, the big red X. This isn't some impossible act of nature. This is a deliberate failure to perform. When a party simply breaks their promise, the innocent party can terminate. The key case anchoring breach is Tan Hock Chon versus Kotak Sang. Remember, Tan Hock Chon equals breach. So, the crucial point is this. Once the contract is discharged, whether by a friendly handshake, a completed progress bar, a burned-down building, or a broken promise, it's dead. But the legal journey isn't over. We immediately hit a wall asking, well, now what? And the answer to that is the final major phase of our explainer, remedies. How exactly do we fix the mess left behind? Part 4, remedies, specifically rescission and damages.
Let's introduce the first two, and honestly the most common, ways to seek justice.
You are about to learn 6 very specific tools for justice. When a contract is terminated, the law doesn't just leave you hanging. It provides a whole menu of compensation options. We're going to start with the top 2 on this list: rescission and damages.
First up is rescission. Picture a pair of scissors. Rescission is when you just cancel everything entirely. You cut the ties and restore the parties to their original positions, almost as if the contract never existed. This powerful tool lives in Section 40. Remember Section 40 for rescission, and link it directly to the case Atorielia Wilendigadagage Henry. Now contrast that with damages. Picture the money bag. Instead of just canceling the deal, the court awards monetary compensation for the loss you actually suffered. This is strictly governed by Section 74.1. Lock that in, Section 74.1. The anchor case here is Bettini versus Guy, where a singer missed rehearsals and the court decided that paying money was the correct way to balance the scales. So Bettini versus Guy equals Section 74.1 damages.
Part 5, remedies continued. Performance, injunction, restitution, and quantum merit. We're going to ramp up the energy now as we rapid fire through these final 4 equitable and practical remedies. Okay, specific performance. Imagine a house. Sometimes money just isn't going to cut it, especially with something entirely unique, like a piece of land. Specific performance forces a party to actually go through with transferring the property. Now, this one is found outside the Contracts Act, in Section 11.2 of the Specific Relief Act, or SRA, Section 11.2 SRA. Next is the injunction. Think of a big red prohibition sign. An injunction legally stops someone from doing something. This is under Section 50 of the SRA, Section 50 SRA. So if a famous opera singer tries to break an exclusive contract to go sing for a rival theater, you'd use a prohibitory injunction to stop them in their tracks, just like in our anchor cases, Lumley versus Wagner and Standard Chartered Bank versus Kuala Lumpur. Let's contrast our final 2 remedies. First is restitution, the cycle arrows. This means returning what isn't yours after a contract becomes void. You just give back the property or the money. This is governed by Section 66. Section 66 equals restitution, anchored by Public Finance BHD versus Elwan bin Saring. And a really quick warning here, don't confuse this with rescission. Rescission cancels the contract entirely. Restitution just focuses on giving back what was already handed over. Finally, quantum merit. Picture a construction worker. This literally translates to earning payment based on the work actually completed. If a contractor only finishes half a house before the contract dies, they don't walk away with nothing, but they also don't get the full price. They get a reasonable amount for what they actually built. Your anchor cases here are Davis Contractor versus Faringham and Plants versus Colburn. Time for our second rapid-fire mental save point. Let's lock in those sections one last time. Rescission is Section 40. Damages is Section 74.1. Specific performance is Section 11.2 SRA. Injunction is Section 50 SRA. Restitution is Section 66. And quantum merit rounds out our 6 tools for justice. Part 6, the Master Exam Revision Map. And this brilliantly illustrates how we're going to bring all of these distinct pieces together into one ultimate master tool for your exam prep. Look at this master grid. It connects the death of the contract on the left directly to the aftermath on the right. If a contract dies by agreement, you rely on Section 63 and 64 and the Corpus In case. If it dies by performance, it's Section 38 and re more. If by frustration, it's Section 57.2 and terror. If by breach, it's Tan Hock Chan. Then, when you move to the right side to fix the problem, you have your exact section numbers ready to go. Section 40 for rescission, Section 74.1 for damages, Section 11.2 SRA for specific performance, Section 50 SRA for injunction, Section 66 for restitution, and the Davis case for quantum merit. This single grid is quite literally your entire syllabus on one screen. Let's do a final high-energy blitz of your visual anchors so you associate the picture with the legal concept permanently. Ready? Handshake, agreement, green check, performance, red X, breach, scissors, rescission, money bag, damages, house, specific performance, prohibition sign, injunction, cycle arrows, restitution, construction worker, quantum merit. When you sit down for that exam, these images are going to pull the section numbers and cases right out of your memory bank.
I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder as you review your notes. The law acknowledges that contracts break. Their death is sometimes entirely inevitable. But looking at the 6 remedies we just explored, ask yourself, which one truly provides the most perfect justice for an innocent party? Is it getting your money back, forcing a unique action, or pretending the whole thing never happened? Think critically about everything you just memorized. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and happy studying.